Welcome back to a Week 3 edition of Inside the Zone. He's Tom Davis of the News Sentinel. I'm Glenn Marini, and we've got 2 weeks of high school football in the books. And predicting what 16 to 18-year-olds are going to do, it's a tough profession.
Yes, it is.
And I'll tell you,
your paycheck and my paycheck doesn't ride on it.
That is true. We do not bet on these games. We don't take them to Vegas. And that's especially good because it seems like over the first 2 weeks, there seemed to be little correlation to what happened in Week 1 to what happened in Week 2. Case in point, the Northrop Bruins. Who knew when they took on Luers that it was going to come down to a 46-yard touchdown pass with just 7 seconds left? But that was the case after Northrop went up to East Noble in Week 1 and got beat 40-7 by the Knights.
Yeah, it's just a little bit surprising that Northrop gives up 40 unanswered points to East Noble and then turns around and nearly knocks off the three-time defending 2A state champion. But Northrop's defense improved markedly from Week 1 to Week 2. It'll be really interesting to see which Northrop team shows up this week against Snyder. You would think on the surface Snyder might overlook Northrop a little bit, but not after last week's performance. They had Luers on the ropes, but you know, give credit to Luers. They found a way to get it done.
And that leads me to my next question: is what do we make of? We've already made something out of Northrop, but what do we make out of Luers? Because this is a team, when you take a look from a talent perspective, especially at the skill positions, that should be really dominating. Obviously, they're breaking in a new quarterback. Mike Rogers didn't play this past Friday night, but with Luers, I guess we're not sure what we're going to get.
Well, you know what? Let's not read too much into Luers being down, because Luers was one catch away from beating Snyder. And so they're this close to being 2-0 right now, and they've played two very, very good teams. So I wouldn't worry too much about Luers. Luers is going to be fine. They're a very good team. Quinn Cook was only 8 of 20 this week, so obviously he's growing into that quarterback position. And like you said, Michael Rogers, Division I wide receivers, not playing, so that impacts things as well. They still haven't had a 100-yard rusher in either of their first two games. A little bit surprising. Jalen Smith only 92. I say only 92 yards last week. But, you know, Luers is fine. They're this close to being 2-0. They're a good team, and they'll be all right the rest of the season.
Yeah, one thing we do know is Snyder is pretty good. They went out and put 56 up on Southside, so they are in the driver's seat as far as the SAC goes. You and I were both at Zollner Stadium on Friday night to see Concordia take on Bishop Dwenger. What do you take away from that game? Because early on, Dwenger played very well, but this is a game that was 21-14 when it was all said and done.
Right. Concordia really, no, I'm not taking away from Dwenger, because Dwenger won the game. They played well. Their defense was really good for the second straight week, and quarterback Cody Miller is getting better each and every possession. Really played well the other night, but Concordia beat itself in many, many ways, and Cadet coach Tim Manigault would tell you that. They had penalties, they had turnovers, they had misreads by quarterback David Morrison, and so, you know, he's a young first-year starter also growing into that position. One possession he'll look great, next possession he'll throw into double coverage, and so it's just part of the growing process for the Concordia program. But boy, they have made progress. If you remember a couple years ago, they weren't even competitive in games. Now they're on the verge of beating some of these teams. So Concordia is getting better, but you know, with Dwenger, with that defense, running back DeMarcus Moon, who had 122 yards the other night, and a really good defense, Dwenger could make some noise this year.
I really feel like this is a year where there are going to be some teams that are definitely better than last year's team, but may have the same record. May have even less wins just because of the level that they play. I think Northrop's one of those teams. I think they're going to be tougher than the 4-6 record was last year. They may be more improved, but they may not have more wins, and that may be the case with Concordia too. Getting the short end of the stick. They're more competitive in the games they are playing. They're a better team, but we're not seeing necessarily more W's. And I think maybe you can say that about Heritage as well.
Well, Dwenger you might be able to say that against.
That's true.
They're getting into where they have Chittard, Luers coming up, and Cathedral and Snyder all left in the rest of their season, so that they too may have the same record as they had last year, but you know, they have gotten better each week so far.
All right, that just raises the level of football all across the board when the teams that have finished in the bottom half of the conference are now being more competitive in those games.
Yes.
It's a great thing to see.